Hello students and namaste everyone. I'm Dhaval sir and our today's topic is your chapter number 6 of standard ninth social science, that is the world after 1945. In this chapter we have already discussed first part, in which we had discussed about the first world war, the second world war, and how after the second world war the two superpowers emerged, that were America and Russia, that is USA and the Soviet Union, and how uh, there was a situation of Cold War between both the countries. Then we had further seen that many countries they had joined hands with the America, and many countries they had joined hands with the Russia. Okay. Then we had also seen that the nationalism grew. These countries they started their journey towards armament, that means producing maximum number of weapons as well as nuclear weapons also, and their use. Okay, now we will see the rise of independent nations in Asia. Why this topic is there? Because as I said, that after the second world war there was a rise of two superpowers, that was America and Russia, right? So uh, as there was a partition of the whole world in two groups, right? But India never supported armament, it always supported disarmament, right? That means not to produce weapons and to destroy the weapons which were already created, right? So at that time, during the situation of Cold War, India was neither on the side of America, neither on the side of Russia. So in the similar way, uh, many other nations they did not want to join any of the powerful nations, because by doing that they will be always under their control, right? So the countries they wanted to remain independent, and they had already seen the first and the second world war and how much destruction it causes. So now they didn't want to join hands with any of the nations, they wanted to live peacefully and independently. So we'll read further and try to understand the remaining part of the chapter in our second part of this chapter. Okay. Rise of independent nations in Asia. India achieved independence in 1947 after a long freedom struggle, owing to Britain's policy of divide and rule and certain other reasons. The country was divided into two nations that we already know, that is India and Pakistan. In the same way, with continued struggle against Britishers, countries like Sri Lanka and Myanmar got independence in 1948. In the case of Indonesia, the United Nations played an important role in 1949. That means to uh, give away the independence to Indonesia. Then Asian countries like Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam too got independence. So these all countries were under the control of one or the other nation. Next is rise of independent nations in Africa. The Second World War proved to be a good omen. Omen means sign. Something which we consider good is considered as good omen, and something, for example, a black cat crosses the road, then we consider it as a negative omen. Okay, negative sign. So, the Second World War proved to be a good omen for the enslaved nations of Africa. That means even African countries were under the control of some or the other European nations. Okay. Then, after the Second World War, countries like Abyssinia, that is Ethiopia, South Africa, and Egypt were independent. The Second World War and the freedom struggle in Asian countries inspired the other African countries too. That means these African countries saw that many countries in Asia They fought against uh, the country who had taken control over there, or who had developed their colonies over their country, right? And how these Asian countries fought against these people and got their freedom. And the similar way, even the African countries got inspired and they also got their freedom. It resulted in that it resulted in that during the tenure of 16 years from 1951 to 1966, 40 small and large countries became free. Right? So that is after the Second World War. Imperialistic countries tried to have supremacy over these countries, but these countries either joined the superpowers or the military resources and got their freedom. Okay, so imperialistic means the countries which try to capture the other countries with their power. Okay, fine. So countries like Britain, there is England, who had captured our country also, right? In the similar way, they had captured many small or big countries, right? So now the countries who were under the control of these people, they did not want these countries. They did not we had also seen about France, Portuguese, right? So these countries were actually European countries who were actually taking control of small or big nations all around the Asia and Africa, that is all around the world. So now the countries, they understood that if we don't fight against these countries, then we'll never get freedom. So they got freedom, okay, after the Second World War. And one of the major reason why they got freedom was because of the Second World War. These countries had lost too much money. Millions and billions of rupees were spent behind the wars. Lots of people they had died, so they had become weak economically. Okay, next is non-allied movement. Some new nations adopted the policy of not to align with any of the two power blocks and military blocks. Right. So in the previous paragraph, we saw in the last two lines that the countries who got their freedom, they either joined the superpowers or the military resources and got their freedom. Right. So superpowers means, as we have discussed, that is the America and the Russia. Right. But there were some countries, as I said in the beginning of the chapter, who did not want to join again in any group. Right. So they had formed their own group, which was known as non-allied nations group. Right. So we'll read out this paragraph and try to understand it. They decided that they would maintain equal distance with both the blocks. Both the blocks means America and the Russia, and their uh, allied nations. That means the countries who were their supporters. These nations were identified as non-allied nations, and their foreign policy was called non-allied policy. Those neutral nations means the nations which did not join hands either with America and Russia, they did not want to adopt the ideologies of either of the two superpowers of the world, wish to have an all-round development, maintaining its unique existence. Because if they join hands with America or Russia, then they had to follow the rules and regulations or instructions given by them. So again, they will be under the control only, and they didn't want that. Okay, under the leadership of India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Indonesia's first president Sukarno, Egypt's second president Gamal Abdel Nasser, Ghana's first president Kruma's, uh, Kwame Krumah, and Yugoslavia's president Joseph Broz Tito got a thumping support from the movement. Right? That means a huge support was given by all these president of the countries to India, right, for not joining any of the power blocks. Okay, in this non alignment council, 23 countries of Asia and 6 countries of Africa were present. The organization was founded in Belgrade in 1961 known as NUM, that is Non-Allied Movement. Okay. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, the policies of non-alignment were framed. Nom completed valuable leadership. Nehru believed that movement continues to see a role for itself, as in its view, the world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized no longer by opposing superpowers but rather in a unipolar world, and it is Western hegemony and neocolonialization that the movement has really realigned itself again. Right. So in this paragraph there are some difficult words. So again, will this I'll read out this paragraph and try to explain you. Okay. So what is written? Nehru believed that movement continues to see a role for itself, as in its view the world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized no longer by opposing superpowers but rather in a unipolar world, and it is Western hegemony and neocolonialization that the movement has really realigned itself again. So first we'll try to understand the meaning of this difficult terms, that is neocolonialization. Okay. So neo colonialism means that is the economic and political policies by which a great power indirectly maintains or extends its influence over other areas or people, right? And unilateral means involving one group or country. Then there is another uh, difficult word, that is marginalized. Marginalized means to put or keep someone in a powerless or unimportant position within a society. Okay. And therefore it is written that the world's poorest nations remain exploited and marginalized. That means the powerful nations, they had always exploited, they had always cheated the weak and the poor nations. Okay. And always these countries, poor countries, were considered as unimportant. Okay. So no longer by opposing superpowers, but rather in a unipolar world. Unipolar world means a place where there is one superpower and other countries will follow that. So what will happen? That due to that, the countries under that superpower will always have to follow the rules and regulations framed by that superpower and also follow the policy made by it. Okay. Fine. Then Western hegemony. Hegemony means influence or control over another country or group of people. So, and it is Western hegemony and neo-colonialism that the movement has really realigned itself again. It opposes foreign occupation, interference in internal affairs, and aggressive unilateral measures. But it has also shifted to focus on the socio-economic challenges facing member states. So, through this, they are trying to say that we don't want to join any of the powerful nations. We want to develop our countries and we want to focus on development, and this all the nations, they have joined together and they have become one single power. Okay. That is the group of non-allied nations. Especially the inequalities manifested by globalization and implications of neoliberal policies. Okay. Manifested means clearly seen. Okay. So what is written? Especially the inequalities manifested by globalization and the implications of neoliberal policies, the non-allied movement has identified economic underdevelopment, poverty, and social injustice as growing threats to peace and security. Okay. So here it is, the word given, which is in social injustice, economic underdevelopment, and social injustice and poverty. So through these lines, we can understand that due to the control of superpowers on these countries which were poor, right? They always remained underdeveloped. That means the countries who were in power always exploited them, and because of that, these countries remained poor, okay? And many social injustices were seen in these countries which were a threat to their peace and security. Moving further, today more and more countries have joined the non allied movement. Union Summit was held at Kuala Lumpur on 13th May 2003. For the last 4 decades, many incidents have happened. With the disintegration of Soviet Union and Russia's power decrease, America emerged as a superpower. So actually in Soviet Union there were many different nations joined together, but due to disintegration means separation, right? Russia became less powerful, okay? And due to that, the only country which emerged as the most powerful country was America. Imperial policy decreased to minimum in other countries. So imperial policies means that means related to empire, okay? So imperial policies decreased to minimum in other countries. In this situation, non-allied movement played a dominant role. That means the policy of capturing other empires, that policy decreased, okay? And non-allied movement become more and more powerful. The non-allied nations with their non-allied policy were successful in contributing toward world politics. The non-allied movement was successful in showing off its mortal impact for maintaining world peace, stopping wars, maintaining human society and nationalism, as well as the superpowers adopting an attitude of disarmament. So, this group of non allied nations showed the world that they also exist, and they always tried to maintain world peace. They urged the other countries to stop wars, right? To develop a society where human beings can feel safe and they can live with peace. Okay, so this all were the activities, and one of the major thing that was attitude of disarmament. That means not to encourage producing more and more weapons and use of it. So that was disarmament. So these things were followed by non-allied nations. Next is partition and unification of Germany. Okay, so Germany was the main cause behind both the world wars. Okay, it faced a humiliating defeat in World War II. All its states, administration, and economy collapsed completely. There was not a single large party left in the whole of Germany that could rule the nation. That means it was totally destroyed. In addition to that, there was fear that Germany would pose threat to the world once again, because the two wars which took place, Germany was majorly involved in that. Now the countries all around the world and the people were in fear that again Germany might pose a threat to the other countries of the world, right? So if it emerges as a military power once again, therefore the defeated Germany was divided into four administrative segments, right? So Germany was divided. The Soviet Red Army in the later phase of the world had captured the eastern part of Germany. Okay, so we'll read about that first. Yes. Then, therefore, it was accepted that Eastern Germany would remain in their control. Okay. Whereas it was decided that America would control southwestern side of Germany, France would control its area near France, while Britain would control areas of Germany bordering Belgium and Holland. So, in four parts, this Germany was divided. Okay, so in Soviet Union also there was a Red Army who took control over the part of the Eastern Germany, And in the similar way, other countries, as we read out, they also took control over the different parts of Germany. Okay. Further, America, France, and Britain started thinking about certain alternative arrangement. Meanwhile, an atmosphere of distrust and doubt had already started between two power blocs. America and other Western European countries established Federal Republic of Germany. That means they again all got together. This was administered jointly by America, Britain, and France. So now, Soviet Union, that is Russia, was already tense because America, France, and Britain had joined their hands together. Okay. On the other side, the Soviet Union also declared East Germany as Democratic Republic of East Germany. Thus, after the war, two independent German states came into existence, namely West Germany, that is democratic, and East Germany, that was communist. Okay, so the part of the Germany which was under the control of America, Britain, and France, that was uh, given democratic, means democracy. There was a democratic rule over there, and the eastern part of the Germany, which was under the control of Russia, that place was under communist rule. Communist rule means the government will decide and take all the decisions. As Germany's three western segments were united, three administrative segments of Berlin also united. In a reaction to this, Soviet Union in April 1948 declared Berlin blockade. So Berlin blockade is what? Right, blockade I have already explained you. Okay, the country will stop the movement of weapons or moving of people or things from one country to another country. So, a Berlin blockade was one of the first major international crises of the Cold War. Right? Still, we are talking about the Cold War, which was prevalent between America and the Russia. So, the Soviet Union blocked the Western Allies railway, road, and canal access. Western allies means the combination of America, Britain, and France. For them, for these three countries, Russia, it blocked the railways and road and the canal access to the sectors of Berlin under Western control. Understood? That means one side America, Britain, and France, they joined their hands and they even clubbed together. Clubbed means they got together three parts of Berlin which were under their control, and due to that, Russia was under fear, and therefore a part of Berlin which was with the Soviet Union, that is with the Russia, was blocked by them. Okay, so this thing happened. We'll move further. Yes, this we had read about Berlin blockade. This resulted in tremendous tension between the Soviet Union and the Western countries. Western countries mean this means the America and all. Later on, a high and 42-kilometer long wall separating Western and Eastern Berlin was constructed. Okay, that means America got means divided into two parts from Berlin. Okay, we'll move further. The communist government tried to prevent thousands of East German citizens from jumping and entering into the free atmosphere of Western Germany. So, as I said, that means East Germany was a communist part of the country where Russia had control, and as we all know that in the communist government, the government decides what to do and what not to do. All the rules and regulations are strictly to be followed by of the government, and in the democratic part of the Germany, which was under the control of America, Britain, and France, they had the freedom to do whatever they want because it was a democratic part of the Germany. Okay, So many people they wanted to shift from East Germany towards the West Germany. Many people lost their lives in doing so after about 4 to 4.5 decades. Okay, Western Germany made an astonishing development. That means a development started take place in the Germany. Where this development took place? In the western part, which was under the control of America, Britain, and France, because there was a democratic rule. The people had the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do. Okay. Yes. And further, experts considered this as German miracle. So there was a superb development. There was so much development that people had never imagined that again in the Germany such kind of development will take place. There was no remarkable change in the economic condition of the East Germany. That means after the Second World War, already Germany was destroyed, damaged, and economically it was broken. So, same situation prevailed in the eastern part of Germany, and on the other end, Western Germany had flourished very well. Okay, the East German communist government crushed all the hopes of its people for political freedom and rapid economic development. That means the people of Eastern Germany, they also expected that they'll get their freedom or they'll get at least the political freedom and they could develop their nation economically. But all their hopes were crushed and they were not given any kind of power. Till 1990, many important and far fetching changes took place in international politics. Owing to many reasons, the Cold War among superpowers also ended. These years witnessed cracks in otherwise impregnable Soviet Union. That means, with the passage of time, the Soviet Union started disintegrating. Okay. Ultimately, Soviet Union was disintegrated. As a consequence of it, on October 3rd, 1990, both the Germany united. That means the eastern part of the Germany as well as the western part of Germany again got united because the Russia got the powers of Russia decreased, and because of that, its control or hold over eastern part of Germany also decreased, and both the parts of Germany they reunited. People broke down the German wall, which was a symbol of German division. Right, the wall which divided eastern and western Germany, the people of Germany broke this wall. People considered demolition means destruction of this Berlin Wall as the end of the Cold War era and celebrated the occasion wholeheartedly. Today, unified Germany has turned out to be the strongest economic power in Europe. After 1990, they have made a tremendous effort to be the strongest economic nation in the last decade. Today, it has become one of the most important and leading nations in the European Union. Right, so that was all about the Cold War, okay, and the Berlin blockade. Further, we'll read about disintegration of Soviet Union. How did the Soviet Union disintegrated or separated? During the last decade of the 20th century, Soviet Union's Prime Minister Mikhail Gorbachev's liberal policy led to the disintegration of Soviet Union. Okay, so Mikhail Gorbachev was a liberal leader, okay, and because of which the Soviet Union got separated. Peaceful disintegration of Soviet Union is considered as epoch making, okay, in the international politics. Mikhail Gorbachev became the prime minister from a socialistic side on 11th March 1989. He had a liberal attitude. Russia had progressed tremendously in the field of science and technology. They also had acquired capability to compete with superpowers like America. Gorbachev adopted two policies, that is glasnost and perestroika. Okay, so I'll explain you the meaning of both these policies. Glasnost, so glasnost is a Soviet policy, right, permitting open discussion of political and social issues and uh, freer dissemination of news and information. That means, uh, as we know, that Russia followed the communist rule. Okay, so there were lots of restrictions and impositions. Okay, but under the glasnost, there was a free atmosphere given, right? Free atmosphere to spread the news, then to discuss information politically also, everything. And the next one is um, perestroika. Okay, so this under this policy of economic and governmental reform, it was a policy of economic and governmental reform instituted by Mikhail Gorbachev, right? So one was glasnost and another was perestroika. In this way, Gorbachev introduced economical and political reforms in the place of single-handed communist rule. Okay, the stronghold of Communist Party, the Soviet bureaucracy, and the Red Army started weakening. Okay, in 1990, that means this parties had a communist rule, so they started weakening. In 1990, process of the disintegration of the Soviet Union began. Towards the end, out of 15 states, 14 states became independent and disintegration of Soviet Union came to an end. Okay, so this is how the disintegration of Soviet Union take place. So next is India's contribution at the international level, right? So this is again a different concept. So for this chapter, we'll end our second part over here, and the remaining and the last part of this chapter we will discuss in the third part of this chapter. Okay, so I thank you all for watching my video.